musician,
long-distance kayaker,
a businessman,
she looks after animals,
artist,
author.
We interview remarkable people.
They're talented in so many different areas.
You're listening to The Dialogue.
89.7 FM East Side Radio.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Jane Liu, who is the founder CEO of Showpo. Showpo is an online retail store, and if you are even half awake, I think you would probably have seen some of their marketing and some of the stuff that's out there. You are totally passionate, you were saying, about social media.
Yeah, I'm obsessed.
Now, how do we become obsessed with social media?
So I used to work in accounting and finance, and I absolutely hated my job. So back when I was working at Ernst & Young, I would have two screens open and I would be constantly on Facebook. I don't know how they didn't screen that out, but I would just alt-tab and pretend that I was on a spreadsheet if someone walked by. But I would spend all my time on Facebook. So I just kind of like, when I started my business, I knew it inside and out. I knew it, understood it from a consumer perspective, and it was just and then it became this great way to talk to our customers that the big retail giants like Myer and David Jones didn't know how to.
Obviously, being a youth-based brand, I mean, your market is, I think we were saying 16 to 32. And you were saying that every year you kind of extend that a little bit as you age.
Yeah.
You started the business when you were, what, 27?
23.
23,
yeah.
Wow, that's pretty young.
So the age range used to be 16 to 26, but now, yeah, it's 16 to 32.
This is a really interesting journey for you. You came from China with your parents. You were already, sort of a little bit older. So it wasn't like you came at the age of 1 and then, needed to learn how to speak English. You actually came school-going age, but learned English really, really quickly.
Yeah, so I came when I was 8 and I was the only foreigner at school. Not just the only Chinese person, but the only foreigner, because I went to Balmain Public School and it's a very Western culture. And I do remember the first day of school, I actually couldn't go to the bathroom because I didn't know how to ask for it. Oh. And apparently I was not very good at charades. So I had to hold it in. It was terrible, except for the fact that the bonus was that school finishes at 3 in Australia, but finishes at like 5 in China. So school finished at least I thought I had another 2 hours having to try and hold it in. But I was a lot, yeah.
That is a terrible memory to
remember.
It
is. I was scarred.
And just desperately needing to wee the whole way through. But you said your parents came here. Obviously, your family, the women in your family in China had always worked. They were in really great positions, and you came from a working culture where females were, pushed to do really, really well.
Yeah.
And so when you arrived here, obviously that was expected of you. Your parents went off; they became cleaners, and then sort of worked their way up.
They
as
worked
the
in
English
factories. Yeah, they remember. I remember them telling me stories where they'll work in a factory and they've worked an hour, and they're like, "Okay, this is Jane's child, like after school care. Okay, we've just paid for her lunch. We've just paid for rent." They work, like every dollar counts, and while they're like working so hard in these factories for minimal amounts of money, when they used to have really good jobs back in China, that they left for me.
You did extremely well at school, and you're super, super bright. I think you said you got a 99.45 average, and that is pretty sensationally brilliant. And you did really, really well. You went to selective school. You said your mother planned that little journey for you through your education. She picked out where you were going to go.
She decided from a very early age she wanted me to go to Sydney Girls. But I have to say, and then she wanted me to work at KPMG straight out of high school. Those are the two things. She's just always, it wasn't even like she didn't plan for me in the sense that she never went and researched or did anything. She was just like, this is what I want you to do. And I just felt the pressure and did it. But my parents were great in that they never looked at any report cards. They never I don't know if it's just because they didn't care enough, but compared to their friends who looks at every report card, goes to parent-teacher meetings, helps them, tutors them through school, my parents just didn't
So
really.
not tiger parents, but
No.
parents, but they had an expectation that
Yeah.
you would do well. I mean, they came
Yeah.
to this country, they sacrificed enormously,
Yeah.
and you expected yourself to do well because of that as well.
I think I had higher expectations of myself than they did. So that's probably why they were able to, like, they were able to. So often they would tell me to not stress too much about an exam rather than put extra pressure on me. So I think that's quite good of them.
At the age of 15, you went and got a job and worked for McDonald's.
Yeah.
Which is highly unusual.
Yeah.
And
So
apparently your parents actually got a bit of flack from their friends.
yeah, so their friends used to tell them, like, why, like, are you poor? Like, why are you making your child work $5 an hour at McDonald's? She should be studying in her spare time. And my parents understood that, I kind of did have to convince them, but they understood the importance of getting real life experience, and that, when people look at your resume, they want to see someone who's more well-rounded. And even when I started the business, my parents got a bit of like shit from their friends about it. And it's funny that back then my parents all their friends, I think, were talking about what terrible parents they became when business wasn't going well. And now they're all coming to my parents for advice. And my parents really don't even know what to say, because they don't even know they don't really understand how it all happened.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Jane Liu, who is the founder, CEO of Showpo. It's interesting because essentially you said, the Chinese community is divided into sort of like these wild children who are allowed to kind of run around and do whatever they like, and then quite conservative, parents who. And you said, but you were raised as like a free range kid.
Yeah, that's what they said.
They called you like a free range child. And I love the story about your mother, which is the best story. You said, her English has been really quite poor and she hasn't done particularly well. And then until she retired. And then sort of all of a sudden now she's just developed this whole new language.
So back when she used to work, she worked like 20 years at the Bank of China. So she had to speak Chinese every day at work. Her English was terrible. She used to not bother learning because she thought people would understand her enough. She used to go to McDonald's and ask for chicken nuts. I'm like, Mom, nuggets. And she's like, well, they understand me. I'm like, I don't care if they understand you. It's still weird. So anyway, but recently she has retired, and she's joined a local Zumba class in Balmain, and she's got her new bestie, who's Christine, who's this Scottish woman. And my mum previously couldn't understand. She struggles to understand an Ocker English Aussie accent. And now she has this Scottish friend that she just gets along like a house on fire. Like she walks along the streets of Balmain. We're going to a cafe, and she knows everyone that works everywhere. She's become.
You said she's using terms like my BFF and, all these. So, and you seem to take incredible pleasure in the fact that she's having a really enjoyable time and that she's loving her life.
Yeah, because I think she is she's more extreme than me. Like, she's a very social person. She's very loud. My dad's very quiet. So I'm somewhere in the middle. But for her to have I could not imagine going to a country where I lost all that. So for her to have that back again, I feel I feel so comforted.
So you went off Sydney Girls, did brilliantly, did a commerce degree, obviously did brilliantly at that, went and worked at KPMG, and then also at Ernst & Young. So, I mean, you had the stellar career. You were on the career path. You were going in the right direction to be very successful. What was it inside you that just went into like cubicle hate?
I could see where the career trajectory was, and it just wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be back when I was studying. And also I was just terrible at it. Even to this day, I don't understand what's going on. And it's funny because I used to work at Ernst & Young, and we've recently engaged them to do some work for Showpo. And even looking at the papers that they're producing for us, I'm staring at it. I feel like crying because it's so boring, and I can't even I would be the person spending hours preparing this 10-page document, and now for me to just even read this 10-page document, I'm dying.
So, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it is really, really funny. And I love the fact that you're so candid and so honest about, the downside of.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many people like that out there who are just going, this is just so not for me. You took that "this is not for me" and actually did something about it, despite the fact that you felt indebted to your parents and that you wanted to do really well for them, despite the fact that you had extremely high standards for yourself. Despite all of that, you broke away. Now, tell me a little bit about this thought process around breaking away from, what essentially you had been groomed to do.
I don't even know how. I can't even get myself back into that mindset of why I did that, because I really don't think it's like me. I think I'm quite a risk-averse person, but I've made two massive, big decisions in my life. So back when I was, so I never even thought about being an entrepreneur until back when I was at uni. I met this European boy who talked about traveling. I never even cared about traveling. And now I've been to over 50 countries because he talked about traveling, and he talked about starting his own business. That grew, these ideas started manifesting over the next 2 years while I was dating this boy. And I was so in love. And then one day I thought, and I was working at, KPMG or EY at the time, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go and travel. And I broke up with him. I deferred uni. I went on exchange to Sweden for six months. I ended up traveling for 9. And that was one of the biggest, just throw everything away and just, it's like what you see in the movie when people make these crazy decisions and you're like, you never do that in real life. But I went and did it. And so and I didn't go with the idea of I'm going to discover myself and find myself.
Oh no, I think you found yourself.
You do, but you don't.
No,
I
think you have. I mean, I don't really meet young people like you who seem quite so sure of themselves. I mean, there's nothing about you that comes across to me in any way as insecure or unsure of where you're going or what you're doing. You seem really comfortable with who you are.
Oh, thank you. I think it's something I have, I do work on, and I have to give myself that little pep talk once in a while.
I find that part of you quite extraordinary. 50 countries. You've been to 50 countries.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love traveling.
Any standouts for you?
So I went on exchange in Sweden. I love that. I've been to Russia was amazing. I can't. But the first crazy place I went to, the first place I took myself to was Brazil. So you can imagine what a big culture shock that was. And I'm not going to sit here listing countries because
that's okay.
But Albania was probably the most random because no one spoke English.
No,
and I'm like, why am I in Albania?
That is an interesting place to go and travel to. Let's be dead honest. Let's talk a little bit about how Showpo kind of came about.
Yeah.
You left the grey cubicle.
Yeah.
And did what?
So this is my second crazy life decision after all of this, where I thought so. When I came back from travels, so you have your travel withdrawals, and then I was also just couldn't adjust back to this little grey cubicle life. So I thought, and I was doing terribly at work. And one of my friends, one of my friends wanted to start a side business. So I thought that would be a great opportunity. So I spent all my time at work, jumping to meeting rooms, taking work calls, speaking to suppliers. We were running these pop-up stores, speaking to her on the phone while pretending to be working. So I was just that and being on Facebook half the time was just making me a terrible worker. And that really reflected in my work, and I was constantly getting pulled up for making errors, and that made me feel really bad about my job, and it just kind of spiraled downwards. So I just really wanted to quit. And because
you thought you might get fired, didn't you? I think in the back of your mind you said you thought you might.
I better quit before I get fired. Yeah, for my own personal self-esteem. And so when my business partner was like, "Oh, let's focus on the business properly," and I kind of just jumped. Well, it took a bit of convincing, but I was like, you know what, YOLO, let's do it. Let's quit. It was very naive and stupid of me to have made that decision. It was in the middle of the global financial crisis. So once I did quit, there was no way I could come back and get another job. So I quit my job. We thought we'd focus on the business. And then 1 month later, she said that she didn't want to do the business anymore. So all of a sudden, from someone who had grade marks and had really... had the right job for what my parents had wanted, I even played 8th grade piano, which is what every
You're supposed to be
Chinese family
brilliant.
wants.
Brilliant, exactly.
I ticked every single box for them. And all of a sudden, I had nothing. My business failed. I lost $10,000 that they helped invest in the business, in that first business for me. And then I was unemployed in the middle of the global financial crisis. So I was in the worst position possible. So I had no other options but to, one, I couldn't tell my parents that I had quit my job and I was living at home. So I would pretend to put on my suit. I would put on my suit and pretend to go to work every day.
Apparently on the bus with your mother.
Yes, my mom worked in the city, so I had to get up early in the morning regardless. Being unemployed and having to get up early is just such a bad irony. Like, it was just the worst thing, getting up and waking up to that alarm and being reminded that my life was failing and then having to put on this suit and put on this facade and then get the bus with my mom and make chit chat about work and
a job that you weren't even going to.
Exactly. So I only had my only option was to start another business, and that's pretty much why I started Showpo.
So it started off as Showpony,
yeah,
and you then changed to Showpo. Why the brand name change?
So I never thought that the brand would even be as big as it is now. So I didn't think that trademarking was a huge issue. I just thought, we'll have a business. I only wanted to. My initial goal was to make enough money so I didn't have to go back to my old job.
Right.
Like, pretty low benchmarks, but low standards. But as we grew, and because of the power of social media, because if you have an Instagram account, a Facebook account, that's not bound by national borders. That's international. So we started selling more and more internationally, and so we looked beyond. We looked at where we were selling, and America was our second biggest market. And there's already a Showpony store. I mean, they didn't have the trademark, but common law will stipulate that they have a right to litigate. And there's a company called Pony Limited, for example, who are very litigious. They had 88 lawsuits already filed.
Good God.
So I was like, okay, I'm good at marketing. I'm not good at legal stuff. So let's just do what we're good at, rebrand it now, like while we're ahead. And I'm really glad. It was a blessing in disguise. When I realized that we had to rebrand, I thought that the brand was all we had. Besides a bit of inventory, the brand was our biggest thing. And I love the name Showpony. And my heart sank. That was one of the worst moments in business at that time. But now it's such a blessing in disguise because we have a unique name. And
it's a great name.
Yeah.
It is a great name, and I think everybody is quite familiar with it. And also a lot of people know who you are, obviously. One of the things that you were talking about is being a lazy CEO, and I love that story. And when I asked you about being a lazy CEO, you sort of explained that you actually are quite sort of time management orientated, which allows you to kind of think that you're lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not really, are you?
I work very efficiently Monday to Friday. My boyfriend will call me at work and I'll be like, okay, is this important? Do we need to do, spit it out, cut to the chase. Like, I don't have time to chit chat. But then on weekends, I am completely devoted to not working. I spend all day watching TV, and then I spend all night going out drinking with friends, and the next day nursing a hangover and watching more TV. And it's like the 5-2 diet. You know how people have that?
Yes.
I have a 5-2 business lifestyle.
But it obviously works for you. And do the people that you employ does that culture of yours run through the culture of your business?
I think we have a very fun and hardworking culture where everyone, I think everyone's very highly motivated themselves, and they like getting praise we have a very encouraging culture where we praise everyone. We have a weekly meetup where we talk about the great things that people do, and that's what motivates people. It's more about the carrot, not the stick.
Okay.
And so yeah, I think that really flows on to the whole team.
So you come from a background where you've been employed, and then suddenly you're employing people. You've got a staff of 30 or more, lots of them kind of coming in and out, and you've obviously employed a whole lot of people to do all those lazy things that you don't like doing. How do you manage all that staff? Because let's be honest, human resource is the most tricky part of any business. So what is it that you've kind of set for yourself? Because I think you're quite disciplined in certain ways. What have you set for yourself to kind of manage that process?
So I'm actually terrible at human resources and hiring because I'll hire anyone. I'm very quick to like people during interviews. But one of the biggest things was just to have had that experience in hiring the wrong person and learning a lot from that. But then also from a very early stage, I hired a general manager who's also my best friend, and she's very the yin to my yang. Like, she's very attention to detail. I'm very big picture. She's very she's bad cop, I'm good cop, which is great, which is a good, and a good position to be in. And then one of the best things that we did last year was hire a head of people and culture who does our recruitment and our HR, and she's so great at what she does. So that kind of...
So you actually call it a head of people and culture?
Yeah.
See, I love that. That's a great title, isn't it? Because it says that culture is really important to you.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's interesting because that cultural element, obviously through your social media, kind of goes out to those people who wear your clothes and who do that. I mean, I said to you, why fashion? And you just went, actually, I'm not even really that interested in fashion.
Yeah.
And you look as cute as pie and all the rest of it today. But you said business is what really gets you going, and the social media aspects.
Yeah, that's right.
So, from a social media point of view, what do you think is the social media that delivers the best at the moment in terms of sales, and where do you think social media is going?
That's actually a really interesting question because at the moment it's absolutely the main one is Instagram. I think if you're going to start a new business, Instagram is probably the best one to grow the fastest and it's the cheapest way to grow organically and quickly. But your customer base has to be within that female demographic because otherwise it is a lot harder. Whereas Facebook allows you to target people better. So Facebook is also a must, but it requires advertising. So they're both actually really the top two social media platforms. But we're actually now looking into growing our YouTube channel. So we have a Showpo YouTube channel. I'm actually in the process of starting my own YouTube channel.
Oh, exciting.
And so hopefully growing that and talking and just doing a bit more behind the scenes and business kind of stuff and seeing where that goes. And that's such a big risk because, we've always had we've got huge followings on our platform. So we've got 1.2 mil on Instagram, almost 1 mil on Facebook. And now I'm going to start with, I've got 103 followers on my YouTube. But it's taking that risk, and that's the thing about business. You have to constantly take risks and restart, and maybe it doesn't go anywhere, but maybe it does. So it's not about looking at what if I fail, it's what if I succeed.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Jane Liu, who is the founder, CEO of Showpo. I mean, obviously, you've had some failure in your life along the way. You've had a couple of, little business that's failed. You didn't do that well at, the job that you thought you were going to do really well. What has happened within Showpo that has been an epic fail for you that you found quite hard to overcome other than the name change?
Well, my first business failing, that was probably the biggest outside of Showpo. But then, since then, I think me personally, there was a year where I've made some bad decisions with pricing where I thought that if we just drop prices, because I thought we were already growing so much, if we just drop some prices, then we'll just get more sales. And I didn't really test price elasticity, which gets a bit boring. And I looked too closely at competitors, and that was the year that we just plateaued. And now I've made that conscious decision to leave pricing to people who are good at it. So our buying team, because that's what they're good at. And then I no longer look at competitors. Of course, I get inspired by what's other things that are out there, but I do not subscribe. I do not actively look because I spent a lot of time working on our vision and the things that we need to do. So if there's someone doing something else, if it's not actually in line with our vision and our plan, then it's just a distraction. There's an opportunity cost to doing that and not doing what we're doing. So I've learned so much from that. And I think it makes me, that kind of makes me humble pie. And that process, that period was probably the worst because it was the year that I thought maybe this is it. Maybe this is all we're capable of. And that makes me it actually has it's helping me grow so much more because it's making me be not too arrogant and spend too much money and just be overly confident because at the end of the day, Showpo doesn't have any investment. If we burn
Are you
money,
self-invested?
it's all
Self-made money. So basically, money.
Bootstrapped. Yeah.
Wow. So
if we lose money, we can always take on investment as a backup, but I never want to do that. So it made me it was a good reality check.
So you have built this enormous business solely on your own, pretty much. I mean, you are the sole shareholder.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible for a young woman.
On the back of my Jetstar credit card.
On the back of a Jetstar credit card and a huge $60,000 debt,
Yeah.
which you were carrying at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, do you pat yourself on the back? Do you look at yourself in the mirror every now and again and go, I can't believe I can't believe I'm here and I can't believe that I'm in the process of growing this incredible business?
Yeah. Yeah. I pinch myself all the time.
But then do you feel a little bit sick every now and again because you've got an entire group of people who are completely reliant on you for their bread and butter every month?
Yeah, that's actually pretty scary. Now that you've said it.
I'm sorry. I don't aim to. I'm just curious because, I think there's the way that you come across is quite bubbly and quite friendly, but obviously there's a huge amount of intelligence and a huge amount of experience in, behind all of that sort of, fun and frivolity. I mean, talking about fun and frivolity, you actually have also, literally at the edge of the interview, you have a little group called, and I'm sure it's not that little, Like-Minded Bitches Drinking Wine.
That's right.
What made you to start this group?
So I think it was like a year and a half ago, me and Jen George and I, another female founder, we thought that we would get together a group of girls because a lot of these networking groups are very male dominated. And so, I'm not like a bra burning feminist at all. But we thought that we'd get a group of girls who are also founders and we can just all get together and just bitch and moan about how crappy things could be at work, but also to have people to celebrate wins with. And so 20 of us got together and had dinner and we had such a great time that we thought that we would open it up and just make it a public group and see who else wanted to join and then organize these events. And then we extended to look for ambassadors in Melbourne and then Brisbane and then other parts of the world. And now we're in 15 capital cities, not capitals, just cities. And we've got I think we've got 36,000 members on Facebook, and it just really shows that there's a growing demand for it. And it's funny that people don't like the word bitches, but I feel like it's a very self-selecting. We chose that word for a reason, because if you're uncomfortable with the word bitches, then this isn't the right group for you. There's so many other groups out there. So
I completely love the idea of it. I think the group sounds amazing. I think your business sounds amazing. I have loved interviewing you. You have such great energy. I'm so excited to see where you go to and what you do. And you are so transparent. And I think that is just really a really beautiful way to be, because it actually lets everyone know about the gritty, the good and the bad. And so thank you so much for coming on and letting me interview you, Jane. It's just been so fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue, and we will be back next week with another great interview.